Welcome. We are here celebrating a decade of Chicago seminars. Rick said, "What hijinks?" And quickly we had many hijinks to discuss. So, on the left of the camera is Howie Rappaport, who does everything for this event until he conveniently handed it off to me this year. And we've
Thank you,
got
sir.
founder of the event, founder of Frugal Travel Guy, Rick Ingersoll. Welcome.
Thanks, Steph.
Hello, hello.
And the
Thank you
audio
very much.
seems to be working. And I'm Stefan Krasowski, and I'm putting together this new version of Chicago seminars until we're planning to be back in Chicago next year. So this is the most poorly branded conference. The name is totally generic. So tell us, Rick, how did you come up with this name? Was it a branding agency?
No, it was pretty much just thought of the second. We're going to Chicago. It's seminars. Okay, there you go.
You didn't even put the year in it.
No, I know. Yeah. I don't even know what the first year was. Was it 09?
I think it was 10. I think it was 10, and then I was there the second year in 11.
Okay.
Because I met you at that FTU event with everybody using gold coins in Chinatown in New York.
Yeah.
Who are these crazy people with backpacks full of gold dollar coins?
I remember that.
And then Halloween was the second year?
Halloween, yes, the cow and all kinds of costumes.
Yeah, the baby diaper. I remember that. Yeah.
So Rick, you were early in a lot of this, and it's a fast moving hobby, and particularly the platforms people use keep shifting. There's Flyer Talk really now is receded for a lot of the newer travelers. They're on Reddit. They're different ways. What you did with a blog was very new. Frugal Travel Guy. Talk about creating really the points blogging space, distinctive from, say, the more aviation focused like Gary and Ben that were coming before. I mean, you were get points, especially credit cards, and your credit is your most important asset.
Still believe it to be true. And the slogan was, "I want to see the world at prices I can afford." And I'm glad to say that I have been everywhere in the world I want to go.
Fantastic. And a little bit of that backstory. Then you've got, people are so fascinated by the business of blogging.
Okay.
You cracked that nut before really anybody did in terms of making a living out of it.
Right.
And that generates all kinds of envy, all kinds of respect.
Well, let's
kinds of animosity.
Let's take a step back first. Rick, do you know how to post an image on your blog?
I did not. I couldn't post an image. I couldn't post a link. I started the blog in 2006, and Howie was gracious enough to volunteer. Hi, Howie, I can see you again.
Oh, look at that.
Howie was gracious enough to put photos in the blog, to put links. I remember the first links that I had were $5 off a meal, and it was a banner ad, long, narrow one. The idea for the blog came from an article in USA Today in October of 2006 about a lady who had just increased her traffic and her income because Google AdSense had just doubled their commission, and she was writing in a recipe blog. And I said, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. I had been a Flyer Talker since 2001. And as soon as I saw that opportunity, I took it. I started the blog, and I didn't get affiliate links with the credit card companies until I don't know. I sold it in 12, and I had them for 14 months. I think I had 14 or 16 months. I had credit card links before I sold the blog. It was really quick. I was in and out. I just got overwhelmed.
And that was the first blog in this area that had these. I mean, you're underselling it a bit, that you connected the dots and found this opportunity that many later also jumped on, usually from your advice and example and teaching.
Yeah, I had 3 or 4 people ask me before I ever felt comfortable with telling someone how to get hooked up with the affiliate marketing companies. And it was Brian Kelly was the first guy that I told how to get hooked up and set up. My original affiliate marketing company was from Madison, South Dakota. The name of it was Commission Soup. They were on the second story over the J.C. Penney's in Madison, South Dakota. Really great guys. Invited me out pheasant hunting a couple of years. It was, it was really a nice, homey kind of relationship, and they were hooked up with American Express. They got me approved with American Express first.
That SPG card, that was
That was it. That was it. It was, I think the affiliate commission was all of $35 or something like that. And I had an opportunity. I don't know if any of you remember when Brian Kelly started talking about the British Airways card when it first came out. I think it was like 100,000 point offer or something like that. And I had to make a decision that given month if I was going to advertise the British Airways Avios card or if I was going to stick with SPG. I stayed with SPG. He ended up in the New York Times with the British Airways Avios card. I'll never forget sitting outside the Hilton in Times Square with Brian. And he had just started. He started in April of the following year. I started in August, and we were talking about the income that had been generated and what that advertisement meant in the New York Times to him. And he did like 6 times what I did in that. I took the old safe, steady SPG card because I knew it. I believed in it. He stepped out, did something different, and I never caught up. It's one of the reasons I had to get out because I realized all you young guys were going to tear this old guy up. I didn't know what Twitter was.
Yeah, but how many times have you retired?
Mortgage banking, frugal travel guy, and I've had a couple of. I was a real estate appraiser for a while, and I had a little real estate company for a while. But those are the 2 big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so there's been, especially this hobby, there's a particular fascination about the business side, and there's all this, when's the right time to sell? And I think I've heard you answer it many times at different, what we'll call them mood temperature levels. But one of the themes you've talked about is having a time where that your business achieves the goals for you and your family, whatever they may be, and not jeopardizing that. And I thought I connected it a lot to when people talk about retirement. It's not necessarily getting this low percent dream. It's about setting up for what you want to do, and that's what that opportunity allowed.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if you want to talk about the numbers or not, and maybe we shouldn't, but it was staggering, the growth in that blog. I was doing from 2006 to 2000 and August of 2010. I was doing 2,000, 2,500, maybe $3,000 worth of commissions, and the moment I put those credit cards in, it went 8,000, 12,000, 20,000, 30,000, and it was 6 figures a month within 5 months. I don't think I've ever told really the story of how I connected my past experience with doing this. But being a mortgage banker, I understood credit. I understood the facets that affected your credit score, which became so important to us. How many can we get, and how fast can we get these credit cards without ruining your score? And I was able to pass on early that it doesn't decimate your score, that the time frame is short. But I really learned my lesson out of a forum called Fat Wallet. I don't know if any of you guys are even old enough to remember the Fat Wallet forums, but there was a thread by somebody. Their name was Sis Staples Sucks. And this had absolutely nothing to do with Staples. But what she or he did was taught people to generate income with 0% annual balance transfers. And not just get one. Remember, back in those days, we didn't have to pay any transfer fee. You went ahead and you got a $20,000 line of credit on a new card, and to do a balance transfer, you just had them send you a check. You didn't have to pay off a credit card. So my wife and I, in one day, did 34 credit card applications between the two of us, all zero balance transfers. We were approved for 17 of them, generated probably pretty close to $400,000 worth of credit. And we tried to use a 50% ratio. Don't spend more than 50% of your credit limit. So if I got a $20,000 limit, I only took 10 grand. On personal cards, I only took 8 grand, and I just put it in the bank. At those times, was paying 7% interest in a savings account, and I'm paying 0% on the balance transfer. Set up all automatic payments for the 12 or 18 or 24 months, however long that zero was. And it showed me how the things that you could learn online could be truly beneficial. I mean, I had no idea that kind of stuff was available online, those types of thoughts and ideas. And then when I mixed all that information about those big numbers, 15, 20 applications, and it not ruining your score, when I mix that with maybe we ought to do this with miles and points, it all fell together so well that literally thousands of people have been able to, to do some of the things that I was able to do.
Well, I think there's two things to call out. One, what you're talking about doesn't fly now, right? I think it's important to have a reality check on that I'm pretty sure no one's going to apply for 17 credit cards in a day and get approved for that, right? That's just not going to happen.
No,
that's an evolution of the financial system,
right?
And even though the financial system in the U.S. is completely different than anywhere else in the world, it's still completely confounding when you talk to anyone that lives in Europe or Australia and you talk about the credit card rewards programs they have.
Right.
It's depressing when you hear about it and say, well, wait a minute, you can't get 100,000 bonus points from a new card and then a year later get a different card because you want to try something else out or you want to fly or you want hotel rewards. I mean, that just doesn't exist. But I think the other thing which is important to keep in mind is the fundamentals on the financial side of things, where if you open up 15 credit accounts, it actually still doesn't have a huge impact. Yes, it's going to have an impact. But I remember refinancing a mortgage, opening it up on auto loan and picking up a couple of new credit cards because we were going to be spending a whole bunch of stuff. We were just buying and buying and buying. And I got approved for everything and my credit score took a little bit of a hit. But, like you said, credit is one of your most important assets. And the key parts of that are paying your bills on time and not carrying balances. And when you were playing that 0% interest game, right, you didn't care about your credit score taking a little bit of a dip. You were never going to max out the cards, but you were looking at it saying, I'm getting 7% interest. If I can get 7% interest right now, even if I'm paying a 3% balance transfer fee, I'm going to play that. But you can't do that.
We're not going to do that now.
No, we're not going to do it now.
or not going to share it publicly, right?
You find me a place that I can earn more than 1% interest on
Yeah.
something without
you might get a 0.1% difference.
Yeah, I mean,
Really,
I'm not doing 45 debit transactions in a month, all $5 or more, and then 3 of them have to be at a gas station, 2 have to be with Apple Pay. I mean, it's too much.
Well, that's one of the most important things I learned from Rick in the approach, because so much of the personal finance advice out there is about people who are tempted by all the enticements of credit cards and fall into that trap, and that's very useful. But for these small percent that whatever combination of skill, luck, circumstances, research, all of that, put it together, that they can manage credit well and benefit from the system. It seems like there's 2 kinds of those characters. And in one kind, the one you hear about the most are people who do all of that to get perfect credit to do absolutely nothing with it. Right. And they're showing up that score, and you see these articles, right? I've got a perfect score and I'm never going to use it. I can't even get a card or a mortgage. And then,
would you like a trophy? I mean, is that really what you want?
And your point was about, this is an asset. It's your most important asset, and so make it work for you, not exist, in a freezer somewhere.
Yeah, I did my latest credit score check was 803. The only thing you really needed back then, and I haven't done a lot of applications lately, but it was, if you were over 710 or 720, you were good. Mm-hmm. You were going to be fine. And I never fell that far, except for that one time when I did so many balance transfer ones in one particular day. I mean, I dropped to like 660 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it recovers so quickly. The extent of our credit card applications over a 10-year period, we did, between my wife and I, over 300 applications, or got over 300 credit cards. Somehow, some way, I don't know if I can find it again, I had the opportunity to print one of my credit reports. I didn't do it. It was 248 pages.
Because wasn't that part of it for a while? The bank systems couldn't even keep up, so they would cut off like inquiries in that. What was it called? Like choppage and all these terms that the forums were using of. Yeah. You would overwhelm that, like they had programmed the databases to only have so many records.
And it was really great when I started this. The bank executives just loved us. I bought a huge amount of business to Chase. Nothing like Brian or some of the other, bigger blogs now, but I brought some huge amounts of business to them. And I would go into Chase in New York City and she'd hug me, the head of the director of marketing. And then once they finally, it took them about 3 or 4 years to realize that the book of business that I was getting them was virtually 1 year's worth of, stuff, right? The last time I saw her, she barely even said hi.
What do the people at SunTrust do when you walk in?
Yeah, I don't remember all that. People say
SunTrust debit cards and Delta. I think there's got to be people that were no longer at SunTrust after.
Oh yeah, I had a manager that I asked to get approval from the home office to do. I don't even remember what it was, and she said, "Go ahead and do it. You'll be just fine." Well, come to find out, she never even asked the regional manager. A couple people lost their positions in the bank, and I don't even remember what the play was, but it was significant in a couple people's lives.
It was a Delta Sky Miles debit card. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's other. I mean, I don't like when people call this a game, in a sense that there's actually real consequences to some of this stuff. And I remember when vanilla reloads were popular at CVS, I got to know the manager by my office, and she once looked at me and she said, "I hate these cards. Do you know how many employees I've had to fire because people have convinced them to do some kind of fraud?"
Oh wow!
And so there is this other element of taking things far in one way, but also not, at least considering what's on the other side of it, that I think gets lost and without the reality check of just apply, and they're big banks, let's screw them. But there's there's humans, and there's all different ramifications to it.
You're right. Yeah, a lot of temptation for the people that are actually at those retail establishments and in those banking institutions.
Now you're retired, but I know you've got always a keen sense of smell for a deal. And now, how do with that experience, how do you identify? Because so many people they want the secret, and nobody's going to share the secret, whatever it is. But how do you put together that a deal is worth doing? That the elements of is it scalable? Is it time efficient? Is there a payoff? I know some things you've dabbled with. I think some of the reselling you've dabbled with at times, and that. So looking back at all these deals, a decade, 2 decades, really, what are some of the elements to teach people new?
I think you have to come to your time is worth so much an hour, and this can't be I'm leaving my job to sneak out and do this, but on the way home, if it takes me 15 minutes to go buy some gift cards and 15 minutes more to go buy some money orders and 2 minutes to deposit them in the bank, what's my net? I mean, that's the answer. I virtually have given up manufactured spending. I moved from a really productive manufacturing spending area to one that's not so, where they ask a lot of questions when you bring in a prepaid debit card. So I've just let it go. The last deal I did was I got an invitation from Bank of America to open a business checking account. If I moved a big chunk of money, they'd give me $750. I did that. Recently, I applied for a second Target prepaid debit card. No cost, no hit to my credit score. Not that it'd make any difference with as big as my file is, but they were going to give me a $40 coupon for a $40 purchase.
We got 2 of those.
I did it a long time ago, and I haven't got the new card yet. I mean, that'd be something that I would do. I very, very seldom look at the frequent flyer sites anymore. I have a rotation of 3 sites: Dr. Credit, Dan's Deals, and Danny the Deal Guru that I look at for those kind of cashback deals or really great bargains. I just bought 240 Bic pens and 12 ballpoints for $9 from some.
And where are you going to donate them? Because I know you're not keeping those.
No, I'll take 2 handfuls and throw them in the drawer, and we'll donate the rest of them somewhere. It was about $40 for the purchases I got.
Sounds like a JJ post on Dan's Deals.
Yeah. Well, it's like when Staples has those promos where you buy a case of paper for $50 and they give you $50 in mail-in rebates.
Yeah.
Right. I'll take the case of paper and I'll bring it down to the Boys and Girls Club.
Right.
Because they can use it. But don't let the deal go to waste. Right. No. Get some credit card rewards out of it.
Yep.
Get out of the house, I guess. But yeah, the days of taking off 3-4 hours and going out and figuring out ways to pick up points and miles and do that, it's just I'm sure there's plenty of ways to do it. Right. Everything evolves.
Staples and Office Max 5X gift card deals still work with, when they have fee-free weekends. It's going on through the 17th at Staples. I could take my Ink Bold card and go down and buy $2,000, or I could buy $2,000 worth in a day's time. Turn it into 10,000 ultimate rewards points, which is worth, I don't even check, X, $150 now or something like that. But then again, now I got to unload them, and it's not as easy to unload them here as it was my last place of residence.
Yeah.
How do you're more in the active deal stage, except you've been renovating a house for the past year or so.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you want a good way to meet minimum spends and hit bonuses and get thresholds. Renovate your house. That was some of the first words out of my mouth when we started doing this renovation was, I'm happy to pay whatever fees I have to pay for you, Mr. Contractor, but I would like to purchase as many of the items as possible with a credit card as we can. I gave him credit cards to use. I said, use this one up until this point, use this one until this point. And we had a couple of really big spend requirements to hit. And it worked out well. I mean, I was going to spend the money anyway. And if they took a credit card and there was no other fee, I was happy to do it. But I wasn't doing it to rack up points if there was going to be any cost associated with it, right? This was not a points play of, I'll buy them for a penny a point if I'm doing this. No, this was if I can get it, sure, happy to do it. But, and I think the big thing that I think we've seen change over time is using cards has become extremely rewarding, right? We've gone from you earn 1 mile per dollar, you earn 1 point per dollar. I think a big part of it now is understanding a strategy to maximize your earning. And it stands behind different cards for specific purposes, and then your fallback. And for the longest time, my fallback was always the SPG Amex. I think that was a lot of people's fallback.
Yeah.
And when that changed, then right, American Express came out with some different products, and Chase came out with some different products. And Chase created ultimate rewards throughout this entire period. I mean, I remember there was no ultimate rewards where you had Sapphire cards and Freedom cards and Ink cards, and you had no way to diversify and say, all right, well, I've got my business expenses and I've got my dining and I've got my travel and I've got my everyday. I mean, there was none of that thought process. It was SPG Amex, SPG Amex.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I think that's been a big part. What was that?
How do you stay organized?
I have 3 of these.
Yeah.
And I keep them all organized in there. Yeah, right. You've got that there. And my parents have one, and my brothers have one, and everybody has their thing. And they always come to me and say, okay, what card am I doing for this? Or what are we doing for that? Or, oh, I want to take this trip. Okay, let's see what we've got for points. And I think that's the big thing that I've done is I've convinced my family that using credit is okay. Just pay your bills. And if you want to take a trip, figure out a way to do it. Well, what points do we need to earn? How can we do this? And so my mother might be earning Hilton points for the whole family. Why? Because mom just has one credit card and she doesn't want to deal with it. But whenever anyone needs Hilton points, we go to mom. Yep. And when she needs flights, she's coming to me or she's going to my brother. And it's, that's how we've decided to kind of integrate all of this is, no one person is the be all end all. Everybody has their little part. And that's how I've gotten my extended family to travel. Because my mother was a couponer, and that's what got me into this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I loved watching the Extreme Couponer show on TLC, but I could never do it. I mean, I still have a problem where I go to the grocery store and if, Polar Seltzer is on sale, I'm filling up the shopping cart. And if I hit my limit and they're not going to let me buy more, you better well believe I'm going to another Publix and I'm hitting that Publix up for another 12 packs of seltzer. I mean, these are the things I get excited about now, I guess.
How did you get yourself to, I think you've broken the habit of airline status. So you introduced me to the term double diamond on Delta back in a long time ago. I just reached 2 million miler by a credit card bonus instead of a flight put me over, which I felt embarrassed about, but I can't break the habit even though I should.
I mean, I've completely gotten over that. I remember the year I earned the most miles flying, I flew over 200 segments on Delta.
Wow.
Earned like 260,000 MQMs, and like 95% of that was domestic.
And that was that little 35-minute connection up to
Oh yeah. It was right. Being in Savannah, it was always Savannah, Atlanta, Savannah, Detroit, Savannah, JFK. That's what I'd always try to do. I'd always try to get routed through New York, right? So I'm going to Cincinnati, send me through JFK. And I remember when I was in Boston, I was going to BWI, and they had a nonstop from Boston down to BWI for some reason. And I convinced agents all the time, can I go through Atlanta? Can I go through Detroit? Like doing same day confirmed change, and I do that. But I've got million miler status on Delta. All right, so that means I'll always get a free check bag until they decide that no longer comes with lifetime silver. And I've got for the work travel, I've got lifetime titanium status with Marriott. Woohoo! Right, I got that in because I got status with Starwood and all that, so that the timing worked on that, which is right. It's nice. I'm young, I've got the rest of my life to enjoy those benefits, so I'll always have that when I go with it. But frankly, at this point, if I want a suite and I really want a suite, I'm going to pay up and use additional points. And if I want to fly first class, and I think we've seen a big shift with it. Delta specifically was really the first airline, I think, to come out and have really competitive first class fares where, maybe coach is $200 and first class was $320. And yeah, it's a premium, but depending on the flight and depending on how long you're doing it, maybe it's worth the extra points and miles to do it. So that's been my big shift. I'm still loyal to Hyatt. And the reason I'm loyal to Hyatt is because of the guest of honor benefit. That's the fact that my status I can use on my family and friends is by far the greatest thing. Right? Being able to take mom and put her in a suite or have a friend get a suite and all that stuff, and I'm just using points for it. That's been something that's been really big.
Thank you.
And really big at any points event, I say. If people are beginners, the first thing is to make friends with multiple Hyatt Global. Yeah. Always keep one or two or three in your pocket for those keys. So I don't need I'm almost tempted by the current Hyatt promos, and we'll hear more about those Saturday. But I'm more tempted to convince others to. Right, exactly. Oh, you should absolutely do that. You got to travel for work. Yeah, just stay a couple more nights. Sure, I'll help you out. I'll give you the information on this. I mean, I've actually thought about there's got to be a creative way. Hyatt Globalist lifetime status is $200,000 spend at a hotel. There's a creative way. There's got to be a creative way for somebody so determined at a discount off retail to go that route rather than mess around with just 1 year. I mean, the way to do it to not have to spend it all at a Hyatt hotel is using some of the partnerships they have. So you can do like an Antarctica cruise if you book it through one of the Hyatt portals, like with National Geographic. And that's double base points, right? I think it's like 10 instead of 5, or the way they calculate the dollars. Yeah. Right. So yes, you may spend $20,000 on an Antarctic cruise, but take a step back and think about it. Right. This is an opportunity where you could potentially double dip, and it's going to. No, wait, I was wrong. Is it double on base points but not on spend? Is that how it works for the lifetime? I think it. I feel like it's double on base points. Yeah, base points, but not the spend. Then, yeah. Right. But anyway, you still have to do that. Get it, if you're making that expense. Right. But there's no. I think the only other way around it is, I think if you maybe have ownership in a Hyatt property, you get status. I mean, that's a whole other thing. You do, but you have to ask for it before you make the investment. I had a little ownership interest in a Hyatt in Denver through a partnership, and if I had asked before I joined, I'd had an opportunity. Yeah. To get. Yeah, and so I have a real estate investment in a company that owns like 35 different luxury properties, right? Including, a couple in Hawaii, and they've got, some Park Hyatts and all that stuff. And, I don't have access to any of that stuff, but I guess it's nice to play the market with that. That's there's always some angle. I knew we'd come up with some ideas. You invest in like one sink in a Hyatt Place somewhere, and you got
Right.
your
Right. Get 100 people to go in and invest in it. And you find someone that puts in 95%, and you say, well, we get 100 memberships, and you get everybody else to do that other 5%.
And scaling and working a deal about Chicago seminars, the event itself. I've learned a little bit over the years about how complicated it is to host an event. And I don't think any attendee of any event realizes how much venues charge for that cup of coffee, that bag of chips, the
bottle of water.
You learn what plus means in terms of service charges and tax, and everything just keeps adding. And this is a hobby that doesn't attract people that are inclined by default to just throw money at things. So Rick, how did you settle on Holiday Inn Elk Grove, Chicago as a template for pulling this out?
Well, one of my readers first suggested the idea of having a seminar. Win Schaefer suggested it. He's a Chicago guy. And we pretty quickly agreed that geographically it was the best place in the nation to do it. And we both just looked around. We did some research online. He went out and physically inspected the hotel, and it fit. They wanted the business. They were reasonable. They would guarantee the whole hotel for us. And, it was just one of those things that fell in place. And there was never any reason to leave. I never felt that they took advantage of us in any way whatsoever. They were always really great. And we're just glad that it worked out. It was just, we were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And they were too. The shuttle was what, 15 minutes from O'Hare? Huh?
15 to 115, the way the
right.
traffic.
Depending on the traffic.
Yeah.
If they only would create an access road at the other end of the airport to let the shuttles out, I mean, it would be a 2-minute ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is something about O'Hare, not just limited to Holiday Inn, but you learn how many of the same brand are at these hotels, because the other 4 Holiday Inns are always the ones that show up before your Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But there is something about, 10 years at the same hotel, and the number of times that people have said, you're a Marriott guy. Why not stay to Marriott? You're a Starwood. Think about all the Starwood points you could earn, right? Stay at a Hyatt. Think of all the extra Hyatt points you could get, and you could have all the globalists, and they could do this, that, and the other thing. And I just don't think anybody realizes the value in having a property that not only knows how to run an event, but knows how to run your event.
Right.
And there is something completely intangible that knowing that I can show up on a Wednesday before the seminars, meet with the catering folks, meet with the hotel folks, meet with the same people that have been there and the new people that have come. And it's just want to make sure this is what you want to do. Howie, I need this from you at this point. We need this here. They're telling me what I need to do to make the event go off at this point. And that's kind of the key thing, right? Rick shows up, he's there for about a minute and a half, and he's got a Diet Coke in his hand. Right? No matter where I'm walking or running, Howie, what do you need? Do you need a bottle of water? Do you need this? What about that? It has nothing to do with, staying at a fancy property. They just had a huge renovation at this place.
Yeah.
They, all the feedback we have ever given, they have always taken the feedback in. And I can honestly say everything we've asked for, they've always delivered on, and they are so happy to have us there.
Yes. They want our business. We're their favorite groups. They tell us that every year, and I believe them. Just by the way, they treat us.
We're engaged with them. It's the same people come back.
Has a sense of humor, because everybody that's coming in has their how I'm going to talk myself into an upgrade for the fleets that are already full. It's like, people assume there's like 100. I remember there was like a Freddie Awards at a Hilton once where it was hosted by Hilton in their home in DC, or where they're based in Northern Virginia, and they had never had that many elites in a Hilton property. It's like, there's only this many suites. Holiday Inn only has so many, and everybody comes up and does their pickup line for the the suite.
I'm here on my honeymoon.
Yeah.
Special visit.
Howie, level with me.
Yeah.
I never got a suite upgrade. How many did you get?
Okay. So everybody knows there are 2 suites at the hotel.
Okay.
I've never taken a suite. I don't want a suite. What do I want? I want a quiet room with 2 beds.
Yep.
Because I've got one bed that I can use like a giant desk.
Yeah.
And the other one I'm going to sleep in.
So who got the upgrades?
They've gone to a mix of people. I remember it was 2 years ago. I made sure Nick Reyes got a suite because he was coming with his kid and his wife.
Oh, sure.
And I said, that's a perfect situation. Give them a little bit of extra space. That's absolutely perfect. That's great use of it. So, the suites were always blocked for us. But I didn't want a suite. I just wanted a quiet room away from everything else so that when I went back to my room at 1 a.m, I could just go to sleep and then get up at 6 o'clock and get rolling. So.
Who have you tripped over in the lobby at 1 a.m?
It is interesting. Most of the people at 1 o'clock in the morning are in the bar hanging out. There's the occasional people that'll be in the lobby, but I feel like everybody hangs out in the bar, which is good. And I will not share any names of anyone that I have found at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's actually the trick. The trick is not to go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. Not if you want to function on Saturday. The worst is staying up late on Friday. That's the worst. I mean, you can stay up late on Saturday because, Sunday is a different kind of routine, but that Saturday is all day and it is exhausting.
Long night.
Yeah, it really is. And last year I had my mother and my stepfather were in town and they came over and got to meet everybody. And then we went out to dinner. And the entire time, my mother and stepfather said, "Now they're here for what?" and who put all this together? Wait, people flew in for this, and they paid money for this.
Right.
I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's a conference. People are here to learn, and people are here to share." I mean, just a completely foreign concept to them. And keep in mind, they have credit cards that earn rewards, and they still don't get it. But we went out and had a lovely dinner. So.
Fantastic. Jonathan's asking, how do you think this hobby will change over the next 10 years?
I think the credit card companies have got a pretty good handle on controlling the primary source of miles and points. They've taken away our unlimited access to large numbers. And that's where I spent my time specializing. So on the other parts of the hobby, I'll pass and let Howie and you.
I mean, I think this year is a reset of so many things. Look at all the airlines and hotel programs extending status. Look at the promotion that Hyatt's running right now. I mean, credit towards next year. It's interesting because the financial side of things is okay. It's the travel side of things, which has been completely decimated, as opposed to what happened in 08, 09, where the financial sector collapsed and travel went with it, right? Travel is what got killed here. So I think we're gonna continue to see some interesting things. I mean, even just the American Express Marriott offers that came out today, right? Sign up bonus, meet the spend requirement, all that, and we'll give you platinum status for a year. I mean, that's unheard of. People chase platinum status and will mattress run to do that or spend extra on a credit card, and they're giving it as a part of a sign-up bonus. That's how desperate the industry is. So I think the next couple of years are going to be everybody trying to figure out what's going on. IATA has released stats that they don't think travel is going to get back to normal until 2024. Business travel is not going to recover until 2022. I don't think we're going to see a big shift necessarily in the credit card points and miles side of things, but I think we're going to see big shifts in loyalty programs, trying to get people back, because it truly is an opportunity where, if you were loyal to Marriott before, you were loyal to Hilton before, you were loyal to American before, whatever, and you stopped your travel dead, and another program comes out with a great opportunity, and it's just all the same for you. I mean, it's a heck of a chance to try something new.
Yeah, I feel like these programs in March did their big announcements one after the other, and like, okay, we're done, and
Right.
It's these business travelers for sure are not back in the leisure ones, and it's so hard to get right. I mean, you mentioned this Marriott offer today, and I know I'm looking at it, and I've been waiting on the Brilliant card since it launched. It's been $75K bonus, and I thought, it's not worth it. Once per lifetime. I'll get the card eventually, but not at this moment. So today it comes out $125K finally, but this free platinum. So what's my psychology? Well, I already have titanium status like you, Howie. And now I don't like the $125K because they're not giving me anything to compensate for the status I don't need. So they need to give me elite nights for me. But if they had just gone with $125K, I might have applied. But now that they've got the platinum, I'm like, well, you're not giving me anything in exchange, so now I'm not going to apply either. And I'll wait till it's $75K again.
This makes me think of a phrase that Rick used aplenty, and it has something to do with pigs and hogs.
Yeah.
Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Yeah.
Right.
And David's got a question that relates to that, and then maybe Rick will answer with his great tagline. But it's if you could have a giant billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting a message out to millions or billions, what would it say and why? These are like the questions they ask at the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting.
I mean, I've got mine. Mine is simple, and it's just think outside the box. Just think outside the box. Whatever you think you know, realize there's somebody else out there that probably knows 100 times more. And if you want to figure out a way to learn more about it or maximize it, just start digging into it.
Here's a really unique one nobody's ever heard before. Read. That's where it all comes from, is getting on some of these different forums and talking to people and looking at different articles and just picking stuff up that works for you. There's no way in the world when I was involved in that blog and that hobby that I could keep up with every possibility that was there. I just don't think it's humanly possible to do that. But the more opportunities you get, the better ones you're going to pick. If I had an opportunity to pick up a real easy couple 100,000 points, it wasn't going to cost me thing, and there was no annual fee, I may not have had time to make $80 with Target, but I don't know. That's one. I just got to try and keep myself up to date.
Yeah.
Hey, free laundry detergent is good.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's small deals versus big deals, and what's worthwhile. It
Right.
differs for everybody. But I do feel, especially this year, all these $10, $20 credits on Amex cards. I mean, they're irresistible. But I'm almost trying to tell myself, don't do them, because then I spend too much of my time thinking about, did I do it this month? And there's ways to be more efficient, but it's like, should that time, as like to your point, be spent reading, and is the payoff better than a $10 credit if I find a deal worth doing?
Right. Yeah, and I'll tell you, the food delivery apps are really throwing some money around now. I don't know how often you think of that as possibilities, but in the last couple of months, I've got meals with no delivery charges and really no charges.
Yeah, I haven't used Uber Eats much, so I just the past weekend had this 40% off orders, and it was uncapped, and there were some the prices were inflated over their walk-up prices, but Fogo de Chao, the barbecue, I mean, they have on their Uber Eats, they have the butcher shop where you just order the meat straight from their shop, and you take home and cook or put in the freezer if you don't, at a lower price than the cooked. And if you want to stock a giant freezer, you could have ordered as much as you I don't know the quality versus the supermarket options in that, but it was just, yeah, it was that perspective of looking at it. Oh, you could, this coupon's uncapped, and you notice that, and then it's you could stock the pantry if you really wanted to, and it was the right value.
I'd like to ask the listeners a question.
Mm-hmm.
Figure there's some way we can do that. Can they respond?
Yeah, they're in the comments, so they can write in.
So one year we had ABC Nightline come to the Chicago seminars, and we did a piece on our hobby.
Mm-hmm.
I had no hesitation whatsoever when they asked me about doing it. I thought it was a great idea to spread the word and let more people get involved. But there have been some critics of the fact that we did spread the word maybe too quickly to people that shouldn't be involved. Didn't have. I mean, I don't know how to say it nicely. That just shouldn't have been involved, or potentially got so involved they screwed the deals up. I'd really be interested in knowing what the comments are from the people that are going to the Chicago seminars now, are what they think about that mass publication of our hobby. Was it a right thing to do or the wrong thing to do?
I mean, I think you've been abundantly clear since day one that you got into this was you were doing it to educate people. And you stopped doing this when it became a job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was fun for you. You helped people. We could see tangible results. I mean, that's why I got involved and I helped out on the blog. Right? That's why I was there, because we were helping people, and the email that would come in and the questions that would come in, and it was all about helping people. And I think the other thing which is important to say is we were compensated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this was not you can be altruistic and make money. It's okay to do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But I think the thrill of helping people on a daily basis is what got both of us up in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's what it's still about. It's still about those stories. It's still about helping someone. I think you did it for the right reasons. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I think
sour grapes amongst our
somebody named Tiffany, who is quite an expert in this field. Tiffany Funk of 1 Mile at a Time knows I think more about affiliates than anyone in the world. The problem with many of these quick media hits is that the people producing don't know what they are learning, and so what they publish ends up being dicey. But gatekeeping has always been lame. And Miles, familiar, Miles Abernathy, I had mixed feelings about Nightline deal. Probably wrong thing to do because got too many newbies. And Jonathan says, in my honest opinion, it's about respect for the knowledge, sort of like martial arts, and how to use it responsibly, not just do one quick edgy deal. So there's a few responses there. And I think, Rick, you at one of the events, maybe several, you talked about how you're member number 2475 in the hobby, and then the ladder should be pulled up behind you, and member 2476 doesn't get access to the deals, and you give that sense about what's there's community, there's responsibility, there's deal killing. Give us that sense, because that really stuck with me of how it's so easy for any of us to draw the line just behind us. As long as we know, nobody else should.
Yeah. I remember one instance that kind of shook me up, where somebody admitted that they had applied for 5 Bank of America Alaska cards in one day. I don't need to mention any names, but I think that crossed the line. I think that kind of information probably could have been handled better between people that knew one another. You knew you were taking it to a safe place. My 2 cents.
Howie?
I mean, it is interesting, right? Because it's very clear that that's a blatant abuse of the intent of whatever the program is, right? And if you know, it's one thing to share that, it's another thing to share that and not have disclaimers on it. And I think that's an important part of the thing, which is challenging. I remember, Rick, one year at the seminars, you had mentioned someone that had really screwed up their credit.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember hearing that. And this makes me think of that, where someone didn't pay off their bills on time and then started carrying balances and started paying interest. And it doesn't matter if you then have 1,000,000 points sitting there. If you have no cash to pay off the bills that you've generated and you haven't used your credit responsibly. And that's, I think, what it comes down to. It comes down to a level of responsibility and a level of ownership of what you're saying and what you're preaching. And I know that hit you really hard. And I think that's part of the reason why the first thing and the last thing that always comes out of your mouth is the importance of managing your credit appropriately. And if you can't pay your bills in full, you shouldn't be playing with credit at all. And as much as Dave Ramsey drives me up a wall, there is a level of understanding and appreciation that he has where just take the temptation away. There's no temptation if you don't have credit.
Yeah. That story still bothers me. I sat down with this gentleman and his wife, and they indicated how far that they had gone in the wrong direction by not paying their bills off in time. And I made some suggestions on how to get out of there, to get out of that financial hole, a plan to get it. But it was still evident to me that they felt that I had some responsibility in that situation they were in. Interestingly enough, a year later, they came back to the seminar and apologized and accepted full responsibility for the mistakes that they had made. And I thought that's a pretty touching moment. That as much as it hurt, the lesson was learned, and on they went. So, and I've run into some wonderful people. My wife reminded me a couple days ago of a lady that came up to me in the airport, just crying like a baby because she had the opportunity to meet me, and what the information that I had disseminated during the seminars or the ABC deal had allowed her to take her family on a vacation that she never could have imagined. The whole family. I mean, those are some of the wonderful things that
I
we.
even remember you mentioning like a famous baseball player saying, "He's one of us."
Yeah, I got to spend a day with Dave Winfield
Yeah.
on a flight from Los Angeles to Chicago, and we went into the lounge, and I invited him into the lounge because I had status with United and Lounge Access, and we talked for an hour and a half. He was on his way to ESPN because that's where he was working at the time, and we didn't talk much about baseball until the last half an hour we were sitting in that lounge. He's taking notes for his life. He's learning this hobby. I thought that was really kind of cool.
And to be clear, you are a baseball geek.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You have been to many a ballpark.
Every major league ballpark in America. Yeah.
So let's be clear, right? I'm pretty sure you would have spent the entire 90 minutes geeking out about baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
And it would have been just as bad for me because I'm a diehard Yankee fan.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah, some wonderful things came out of that hobby. I'm on the ferry from Circular Quay or K in downtown Sydney, going across the ferry to the zoo on the other side of the harbor, and a guy comes up and taps me on the back of the shoulder and says, "Are you?" I mean, we're halfway around the world, so the hobby had some reach. By the way, I have a son that lives in Australia, and they do get a few Qantas miles. But you're right, Howie. It's nothing like game we play here.
They can earn miles paying insurance, a few different things, but it's a little bit tougher over there. It's
Yeah, it sure is.
Credit card surcharge land. But I want to close with, after all the wonderful people of Chicago Seminars, and the venue, my next favorite thing is the pizza and the pasta. How did you set on this classic catering model that hasn't been allowed to change? I think they keep it in storage and reheat it every year. It's delicious.
This again goes back to if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always someone that has an issue with something of the food, and nothing is ever perfect. But you can't please 500 people with everything. And I'll tell you, I eat all my meals there. I'm happy as can be.
Yep.
And the fact that we've got this giant community of people that sit down for an hour and spread out and take over the entire hotel for all of their meals. The hotel does an amazing job. And to be clear, anyone that has food allergies or concerns, the hotel has addressed every single one of them every time and has never charged us an extra penny for it. So they're family at this point. They really are.
They certainly are. Yeah.
Oh, what a wonderful way to close for the Chicago Seminars family. Thank you, Rick and Howie, for a decade of incredible events.
Thanks, Stefan. Appreciate all the work you're doing this year.